Hello, folks. Nicole Kernohan here, our COO and elite coach with Elevated Worldwide. Today, I'm excited to chat with you about strengths, about identifying your strengths. Are you using your strengths? And the importance of leveraging and using your strengths. So, I'm going to share a few thoughts today to start off. First of all, I want to share this quote from Peter Drucker. He says, "Most people think they know what they're good at. They're usually wrong, and yet a person can only perform from strength." Right? They think they know what they're good at. They're usually wrong, and a person can only perform from strength. In order to have fulfillment and joy and happiness, I guarantee that if you identify your strengths, clarify them, and then intentionally utilize them in, if for business owners, for entrepreneurs, utilize them in your role there, and even for those who are employed or who are a leader or a manager, to identify that for your team. The power of doing this can transform, hey Susan, their enjoyment, their engagement, and yours, and your productivity and results. Okay, so let's get into a couple more thoughts. This is an interesting one. I want to ask you, if for those of you who have children, and if you don't, you were a child once, so you will probably understand this concept. But let's say you're a parent and your child comes home and they bring their report card. And you see the report card and you see A plus, A minus, C minus, A, and then maybe a B plus, an A, or another A. What is the first grade that you look at? What is the first grade on that report card that you address? Well, if you're like about 75% of American parents, you focus on the C minus. You focus on the worst grade rather than celebrating all of their strengths and all of the amazing grades. This is how we're programmed. And this is why, as an adult today, we have been kind of programmed to identify our weaknesses and try to bring them up to average. Well, that's fine if you want to be only average. But for those of you who want to be beyond average and make a big influence and impact on the world, it is critical to focus on your strengths. Take that, if that parent went to the child and took that A plus or several of those A's and said, "Oh man, you are so good in these. Which one do you enjoy the most? Which one is the most fun for you? How about we emphasize that even more? How can we make your strength even stronger?" And that is where those unique and incredible talents are born, is by strengthening our strengths. Yes, Susan, I'm a bit delayed responding, but you got it. It's the lowest one, is the one that most people look at. And guess what happens? This also happens in business settings, in corporate settings, in business settings. When you're getting to both sides, when you're getting a review from your leader, they will focus on, here are the things you did well, and here's the thing we need to work on. And they'll put energy and emphasis on how can we get this weakness to be a bit less weak. And maybe if there's a major problem and it affects your role, that is something you need to work on. Or maybe it's just the wrong role, and there's a different role where you could leverage your strengths more. But here's what else happens. Not only does the leader focus on the weakness and trying to fix the weaknesses rather than strengthening the strengths, so does the employee. We've all been there. If you've ever been an employee, maybe you haven't. If you're all entrepreneurs, then you've always been. But if you've been an employee and you get the feedback, the report card from your manager, your leader, your boss, that says, here are the things you did well, but here's this one thing that you're not really doing well. That's all we can think about, right? Your mind is trained to focus on the weakness and say, how can I fix the weakness? And we get emotionally attached to the weakness. And that is just unfortunate. It is what it is. We just have to become aware of it so that you can change it and shift and focus on your strengths. I love this other quote from Benjamin Franklin. He says, "Hide not your talents, they for use were made. What's a sundial in the shade?" what is the use of having these God-given talents and gifts if you're not using them? So ask yourself, do you have the opportunity to use your strengths on a daily basis? Right now, do you have the opportunity to use your gifts and talents on a daily basis? Hey, Janet, nice to see you here. I don't know if the delay in the messaging might be, you might have posted that before I responded to it. There may be a little delay here, but it's awesome to have you guys. So ask yourself, are you using some of your talents on a daily basis? Do you have the opportunity, or have you created the opportunity to use your strengths on a daily basis? Now, I'm going to share with you today a few different ways of looking at strengths and identifying your strengths. But before I do, I also want to identify that your strengths is not the same as your desires. You may be gifted in an area that is not necessarily what you want to do for your life, so I want to also be aware of that. We want to identify your strengths and then determine which ones you can leverage to become the most fulfilled and happy. It is so much easier and more joyful to be performing things that are strengths, right? And it is not equal to your desires. So your strengths, with Elevated, we help people with their purpose. We go through desires, strengths, and values. So I want to just identify, so that those of you who take this away and you kind of identify your strengths and then you want to go leverage them every day, you have to decide for yourself. Do you want to shift that into completely focusing on that if that's something you desire, you have a goal you want to, or is it a strength that you could leverage in your current circumstance? Okay, so let's talk about this. So one of the ways, I'm going to jump ahead. There's a few different questions I'm going to ask you guys to think about today when you're trying to assess what some of your strengths are. But I want to give you a preview. One of the things that I have done and that we do at Elevated is we use the Strengths Finder. This is a book. It's actually an old book. I think I've had it for like 20 years. I don't know. I found it in my bookshelf. But it is the same concept. So this is one way to assess your strength. This is not my company. This is through a company called Gallup. And the assessment is called Strengths Finder. You can find your top 5 character strengths. I think it's about $30. So this is something we leverage. We get our clients to do this, but it is not our company. It is a separate vehicle. So yeah, if you do want to take this, it's through strengthsfinders.com. But this is a powerful way to identify what some of your character strengths are, some of what your core character strengths are. I'm going to read some of them, and you can just reflect on yourself. If some of them is just a term, you have to identify whether it makes sense for you. I'll share with you a few of my strengths, but I'd love you to think about what are some of yours. Actually, Janet, if you have your strengths, if you remember your results, I know you've done the assessment, so feel free to share some of your strengths. So here are a few of the examples. So these are the ones that StrengthsFinder is an assessment. It takes about 30 minutes to do, and you just answer the questions. You have to do it uninterrupted because part of the way it assesses you is how fast you're doing it. And it'll help you come up with some of these top 5 strengths. So Achiever is one of mine, which is kind of an action-oriented, get things done checklist. Sometimes your strengths can also be a weakness. I wouldn't say a weakness, but can be a pain, because the Achiever strength is one that you can slip into the never good enough, because I always need to do more, right? So we have to be aware of some of these strengths. How can I optimize them and use them to my advantage while not letting them affect me negatively? So empathy was one, adaptability, analytical, belief, having high belief, communication, context, deliberative, discipline. Oh, I love the people who have discipline as a strength. Empathy, that's also one of mine. Empathy, which is a gift and a curse. It's a gift. It's a gift. These are all gifts. But, I could cry at a beautiful birthday card. Someone shares a little story and I can barely wear mascara. Empathy is you feel the emotions of other people's experiences. Futuristic, learner, positivity, which is also one of mine. Significance, strategic, responsibility. So there's 34 of them in here, but it is a really powerful tool. So we do that with our clients in our programs, but you can do that anytime. Janet, so you said learner, self-assurance, achiever, ideation, and arranger. Ooh, I'm not as familiar with arranger. I'm curious about that one. I love the learner strength. Learner is like which is also, and a learner is one that where you're constantly learning, right? You are always open-minded to more information, new things, new ways, always open to learning new things. The one challenge that could occur with a learner strength, not always, but the potential of it is to be always learning and not acting. Like the similar to kind of the examples I gave with some of mine is sometimes if your strength is so big, we have to be aware of it and how do I optimize it so that it doesn't kind of become go over to the other side. Awesome. So that I wanted to share with you today because I think that's a really powerful way to learn some of your strengths. And I'm going to ask you a few other questions to identify what some of your strengths are, whether they are this type of strength or another. So one question to ask yourself is, this is a simple question, but what are your unique talents? Just first ask yourself and then ask someone close to you. So you ask yourself first, even if you don't do the assessment, but what are some of your unique talents? What are some gifts that you have that you know are strengths that you sometimes might hide because we don't want to seem prideful or showing off? But what are some unique gifts and talents? Unique characteristics. So I shared some of those characteristics today. Some personality traits. What are some unique things about you that are unique to you, that are God-given gifts? Now, here's another way to look at it. What are some ways of being or doing things that sometimes annoy others? Because this is also a way of looking at something that may be a strength. So positivity is one of my strengths. And if someone is a really negative person, I could appear annoying. If our frequency, there's the frequency scale. If someone is constantly living down here, especially if they're in a super low frequency of shame or guilt or even apathy, like just not caring about life, and I'm up here with positivity and futuristic and the future is amazing and everything's good and look at all the wonderful things in the world, that could annoy the heck out of someone who's on a very different frequency. So just an awareness of, are there character traits or aspects about you that you think annoy other people? And that might have been a painful experience if that occurred as a child when we didn't have, and even today, but as a child when we don't have the tools to understand what's happening, that could be a painful experience. So even think back as a child, what were some ways of being or characteristics or things that you did that annoyed other people? Sometimes what annoys someone else is because they actually are jealous. And right? It's not just, it could be just that there's a big gap in where your strength and their strengths lie or their frequencies, but it also may be that they may be jealous, that they don't have that talent or that gift, and they express it in a way that isn't useful and isn't really showing it accurately how they feel. So what are some things that may annoy others? So think about that. Write some things down. Try to think of something. If you can't think of something today, think of something from childhood, or think of something that could annoy someone, even if you don't have someone in your life that it does annoy. Now, the next thing is asking others. Going to other people. Ask others who are closest to you. I would invite you to ask someone close to you, like in your family, and then someone close to you that you work with in your workplace. Maybe more than one person if you'd like. But ask some people. It requires you to be vulnerable. Don't tell them your strengths yet. Try to let them come up with it on their own. If they aren't able to come up with some things, you can give some examples. But say, what are some things that you think I'm uniquely talented at? Some skills, some personality traits. What are some things that I do that you think I am good at? Because I am telling you, other people will see talents and gifts in you that you don't see in yourself. Especially if it's something like that example of something that used to annoy other people, or something that is so deep within you, you don't even know you do it. You're unconscious. So it is super powerful. Another powerful way to get some feedback of what your strengths are is to ask someone else. Janet, you said, I believe I have a great personality. Once I learn something, I feel I become passionate about it when I share it with others. Yes, so good. That is a good example of that learner strength, and even a positive personality. And Janet, you have such a beautiful personality. You're very your presence is very upbeat, and the power of sharing with others. That's a great example too of identifying a strength. Is it something that I feel inspired to share with someone else? It's like, ooh, I learned this and now I want to teach someone else. Or it may not be like, if you're really amazing at piano, you may not be inspired to teach someone else about piano. But if you have a learner strength, it is very common to want to be able to teach others, because when you learn something new, you're like, oh, the whole world needs to know this, because if it's influencing my life positively, there's a desire to influence others. And that may also be a different strength. That may be a connectiveness strength, or harmony or inclusiveness. Those are some, like the desire to help and share with others, may be one of the other strengths as well. So awesome. Okay, so those are some of the key things that I wanted to share. Let me just check my notes here to see if there was something else that I wanted to make sure I added. Yeah, okay, here is one thing I do want to add. So I do want to make sure that you, when you identify your strengths and you uncover, even just, you can narrow down, like we have in our purpose program, we kind of identifying strengths. We get people to come down to like, what are your top 1 or 2 strengths? It's powerful to know a bunch of strengths and valuable to incorporate them into your life. But for your ability to take action today, I guarantee you, if you pick 1, maybe 2 of your strengths that you aren't, fully utilizing currently on a daily basis in your current circumstance, before even changing circumstances, but I guarantee you will be able to find more fulfillment and happiness if you incorporate in some ways these your top 1 or 2 strengths. Being intentional, right? Instead of unconsciously doing these things, or worse, doing them and then feeling a bit bad, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so positive, or maybe I shouldn't, instead of that energy, saying, okay, these are 2 of my top strengths, 1 or 2, pick 1 or 2 for today. And then how can I intentionally use these every day, even if it's just for 2 minutes? It doesn't have to be like change your whole life overnight, but bringing these 1 or 2 strengths intentionally into some of the things that you're doing can quickly shift how you feel and your joy. Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much, folks. That's really the main message. I wanted to just give you a little touch on the power of strengths, the importance of strengths, the fact that most of us don't really know what we're good at, and the fact that most of us are programmed to focus on the weakness and try to bring it up to average, rather than what I'm inviting you to do today is focus on your strengths and make your strengths stronger. That's how you will stand out. That's how you will make a huge impact. That's how you will find joy and fulfillment. All right. So if you guys are inspired, if you do want to connect with me after this, you can message me anytime, but we also have a clarity call that is free if you want to connect with myself, one of our team members, and we'll just help you get some clarity, maybe help uncover a little bit of your desires or your strengths, or what you're working towards, or what you're missing out, or where your gaps are. So that's at claritycall.info. That is available anytime, so feel free to jump in. It's a free call. We'd love to connect with you, or reach out to me and connect anytime. Awesome. Thank you so much, folks. It's been fun. Have a great day. Find your strengths. Live into your strengths. Be your strengths. Don't try to hide them. Thanks so much. See you soon.